Afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you had, as I did, a very good lunch. And one of my objectives this afternoon is to avoid you falling asleep. But with the post-lunch pause. But we have such interesting discussions and panels to come. I'm sure that that's the last thing that will be on your mind. So, quickly to run through the afternoon session. So next, we will cover the ETP recommendations on aquaculture. Then we'll move on to what I call the enablers. This is the NGOs, research and academia, shipbuilding, ports and infrastructure, and processing panel. We will have a pause for a coffee during the afternoon, so don't be too concerned that won't happen. Then we'll have a panel on banks as financial partners. This is indeed an aspect that has come up quite rightly. And then we'll have for the final panel of the day, we'll sort of kind of take a helicopter view, take a little bit of a step back and look at the broader perspective and consider from local to European cooperation. And then we'll have, of course, a closing. Let me remind you on the interpretation. So English, French, Spanish, and Greek. And again, many thanks to our interpreters for the great work they're doing. Another little reminder on the use of Slido, but also for social media posts that you might be doing. And we even have a hashtag, so we must be having some impact, which is hashtag EU Blue Energy Transition. You see it on the bottom of the screen there as well. Great. So without further ado, I'd like to now move on to the panel on the ETP recommendations for aquaculture. And to start proceedings, let me first invite Felix Lineman, who is the head of the Blue Economy Sector's Aquaculture and Maritime Spatial Planning in DG Mare. So you have many hats to wear, I see, Felix, but today you will wear your aquaculture hat. So Felix, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Stephen, and good afternoon, everyone. So what else than the energy transition of aquaculture to keep you awake after lunch? It's a pleasure to open this panel, and no loud laughing there. The energy transition of aquaculture is one of the pressing challenges and opportunities for sustainable food system and climate action in the European Union. Because aquaculture, the farming of aquatic organisms, is a source of healthy, high-quality protein. It contributes to food security, supports coastal and rural communities, and importantly, can do so with a lower greenhouse gas footprint than many other and many land-based protein sources. We are working for the sustainable growth of the aquaculture sector in the EU. But as the sector grows, to meet rising demand, we must ensure that it aligns with the EU's climate goals and the broader objectives of the European Green Deal. The European Commission recognizes that the aquaculture sector is heavily dependent on fossil fuels for its energy needs. And this dependency exposes producers to volatile energy prices and contributes to greenhouse gas emissions that need to be drastically reduced if the EU wants to reach its climate objective to be climate neutral by 2050. And to tackle this, you have heard it throughout the morning already, the EU has launched policy initiatives and partnerships in aquaculture, fisheries, and other related maritime sectors. As I said, you have heard about this earlier today. Our policy framework for aquaculture in the European Union are the strategic guidelines for sustainable and competitive EU aquaculture that were adopted in 2021. And already then they recognized aquaculture's dependence on fossil fuels, and they call for climate neutrality, energy efficiency, the use of renewable energy sources and innovation in the sector. And did you know that aquaculture is one of the most innovative food sectors in the world, including in Europe, with a lot of research that has been going into this development? In line with the objectives from the strategic guidelines and also in supporting their implementation, the Commission published in 2024 a staff working document on the energy transition in the EU aquaculture sector. And that document gives practical guidance on how to address the reduction of emissions at the production level and includes good practice examples from all over the EU and beyond. This policy work is complementary to the work happening in the EU Energy Transition Initiative for Fisheries and Aquaculture that aims to accelerate the uptake of renewable energy sources and energy-efficient solutions. You know that the Energy Transition Partnership, the ETP, drives this initiative and recognizes that energy transition requires coordinated actions among technology providers, financial institutions, public authorities, and research bodies, and of course, the sector itself. And by fostering collaboration, sharing solutions, and supporting projects, the partnership reduces uncertainty and encourages investment. This is particularly important for small and medium-sized aquaculture enterprises, and that's most of them, because they often face higher upfront costs and limited access to capital. Now, when it comes to energy transition, the aquaculture sector is somewhat distinct because it relies on multiple different production methods. As presented in the study, or as will be presented here, and we will soon publish a study, a key challenge for the decarbonization of the sector lies in addressing emissions from feed and from transportation, as well as its energy sources. EU aquaculture supplies only around 1/10 of EU seafood consumption, but its value has grown strongly, especially in marine finfish over the past years, showing untapped potential if the investment, the productivity, and the skills challenges are addressed. Now, the Partnerships Support Group, with its 2 working groups dedicated to aquaculture, there is an offshore aquaculture group and inland aquaculture working groups, offers a collaborative platform to develop fair and realistic transition recommendations that reflect regional diversity, different production systems, and technological readiness across the EU. By fostering dialogue, it ensures that no part of the sector is left behind and that the transition strengthens Europe's aquaculture communities, whether they are on the coast or in landlocked countries, in rural communities. So before we can start the panel with Stephen's kind moderation, I would like to express my gratitude to the 2 coordinators, Eva Kovac and Giulio Brezzi, who, for the work that has been carried out in the 2 dedicated aquaculture working groups, which have jointly prepared recommendations that are now available on the Energy Transition Partnership webpage, but we will also see them presented right now. The goal is here, like for the fisheries, to develop a sector-specific roadmap for the EU aquaculture, along the one for fisheries, energy transition, so that we outline the shared recommendations to improve the efficiency and to reduce the fossil fuel use. So let me conclude. This transition is not only an environmental necessity, but it's also an economic and a social opportunity to drive innovation, strengthen rural and coastal communities, and position European Union aquaculture as a global sustainability leader, supported by fair policies, funding, and new technologies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Felix. And if I could ask you to stay on the stage, not in the wings, but actually be center stage. And if you'd like to take a seat as well, please. Maybe once, yeah. Then we're a bit more cozy, I would say. So And it's also now my pleasure to invite our two coordinators for aquaculture to also join me on stage. So first I'd like to invite Eva Kovacs, who is the support group coordinator for inland aquaculture and is the senior project manager at Eurofish International Organization. Thank you very much, Eva. Please take a seat. And accompanying the panel, we have Giulia Brizzi, who is the support group coordinator for offshore aquaculture and is also the technical director for Clamis SRL. So, Giulia, please. Welcome. Thank you very much. So, again, what I would like to do, I have some questions to pose for you. We will also have look at the questions from Slido at a certain point as well that may come up. And Felix, you are more than welcome to also contribute, I hope you will contribute to the discussion as well for this panel. So let me first start off with a question which I'll pose to each of you, so Eva and Giulia in turn. So maybe I can start with you, Eva. What for you are the main differences that should be considered when discussing energy transition in inland aquaculture versus offshore aquaculture? Please.
Well, thank you for the question. These two activities overlap a lot due to their nature, but if I need to mention a difference, that could be even the potential availability of alternative energy sources, because inland aquaculture, that's very diverse. It's practiced in a very diverse environment, both in a natural point of view and also an economic so I mean. It's a very diverse environment, and the availability of all these resources is also very different. While in offshore aquaculture, at least they have the offshore wind energy or the energy of the waves. Then I would also like to mention the vessel electrification, which is really not an issue in inland aquaculture, simply because they mostly don't use vessels. But the availability of alternative electricity is really in the focus, and it's very important for them.
Thank you very much, Eva. So I pass the floor to you, Giulio. So the same questions. What are the main differences that we should consider when it comes to inland versus offshore?
Yes. First, let me thanks for the opportunity to bring here the voice of aquaculture stakeholders. As said by Eva, inland and offshore aquaculture are not two completely separated sectors. Just to give a basic example, the fingerlings or seed production is achieved mainly in hatchery on land, then stocked at sea for the offshore production. Another example can be sought in the logistic, in the processing unit connected to the cold chain to move products from sea to the final markets. Therefore, part of process is shared, and the two sectors partially overlap in their energy needs. A main difference can be found on the marine side, where the logistics carried out by feeding vessels, operational vessels, harvesting vessels, barges or chain or sensor make the true difference. In this point, we envisage for the future of offshore aquaculture, more intensive use of electrical-driven units to partially replace or to replace as much as possible the use of fossil fuels. We do expect that this energy would come from renewable sources, and do we need to show to producer how to make this transition actually feasible? Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. That's great, Giulio. I'll still stick with you, if I may, and ask the second question is, how would you see that the sector can benefit from adopting alternative energy sources, and what are the key leverage points or the issues identified, for example, on licensing procedures or any other aspect as well? So I hand to you.
To me. Well, in few words, the sector can benefit lowering its energy bill. This is the main point. Or increasing the general sustainability of its process, in this way attracting customers that are sensitive to this kind of issue. We expect that the sector will do its part to fulfill the goals of the Commission for the decarbonization. Nevertheless, the operators request that the transition would be administratively easy, socially acceptable, and not leading to operational needs more expensive than the ordinary course. The backbone of EU aquaculture is constituted by SME, often small companies, undercapitalized, and not able to develop huge process of transformation. We are still lacking the proper infrastructure for energy transition, the rules for building a dedicated electrical vessel easy to be operated by farm staff. We still miss some additional pilot projects to show to the farmers how to entertain effectively the transition. The sector expects that the Commission and the national authorities will ease the transition for companies, especially for the SME, not only by financial support. We understand today that the financial support will be present, but not enough to fulfill all the needs, but especially preparing fertile legislative grounds where the transition can develop. Thank you.
Yep, many thanks, Giulio. So the same question again then to you, Eva, for looking from the inland aquaculture perspective. So how do you see that the sector would benefit from adopting alternative energy sources, and what are the key leverage points / issues identified from your perspective?
Well, adapting alternative energy sources would hopefully bring down running costs and reduce the exposure to energy price fluctuations, and such improve overall reliability. But in the end, what is most important is feasibility, and that should be considered in the different environments, both regarding the conditions, the grid access, spatial constraints, regulations, and the economics of a specific region or country. When we talk about this adoption, we think that a very important task would be for each enterprise to look at their own operation, because by rationalizing the operation, that could already save a lot of energy. Then we think that closer collaboration with other sectors is really needed. By this meaning the community, for example, where the farm is located, or sharing the different resources or like the availability of alternative energy sources. So these should also be considered, and these should be followed. Then licensing and permitting is also a very important issue in this sense. And even though inland aquaculture is under national management, farmers still feel that it should be fair and comparable, at least within the EU, which is currently not really the case. So they would welcome practical guidance on how to interpret and implement different EU rules.
Thanks very much, Eva. Felix, would you like to come in on any of those questions and the comments made? Yeah, need a mic, yeah.
Thank you. I realize, and you said it, the EU rules for aquaculture are limited to strategic guidelines, and it is a member state policy. We have addressed the questions of licensing, of access to space in various so-called guidance documents, but it will still take time until that reaches actually the licensing procedures in the member states themselves. But you were just talking about the question of licensing and then the question of how environmental elements are taken into account, because there we also see a big difference between member states and how that is taken into account by differently implementing, for example, the Water Framework Directive and its requirements. We are now preparing another guidance document on the environmental performance of aquaculture, where we hope that can also support member states in better harmonizing the procedures and really getting more out of that and having a better level playing field between different countries also in the EU.
Yep. And you mentioned before there were guidelines before on energy transition for aquaculture as well, which I hope have been widely disseminated also. And another aspect which perhaps hasn't come up so much in previous panels, but I think it has at least been mentioned, and I think it is an important aspect, is, and here maybe I can start with you, Eva, is in terms of what's needed on the types of training and workforce development to support the transition. So from where we are now, what do you think is needed in terms of training, upskilling, workforce development in inland aquaculture?
Well, training is definitely needed, but we would like to emphasize that it should be based on the local conditions. So general trainings and general knowledge is not that much welcome, because I think most of the farmers and producers already know about that. But whenever a training is set up, local conditions and local responsibilities and the local environment should very much be considered. Then the sector also thinks that there is a need to kind of train or at least provide some knowledge to other sectors, to relevant sectors as well, because if they need to work together in the future, they would like these other sectors, like the banking system, the electricity support, the environment protection, and all these other sectors to understand the challenges, the way of working, and the structure and status of aquaculture. And then it will be much easier to work and collaborate with them. And also the sector thinks that consumer awareness raising is very important, because even though there are a lot of efforts from the sector to be more sustainable and to produce less CO2. But if it's not approved or not very much seen by consumers, then they think that they will have problems. So basically,
Yep.
this is...
Okay, no, that's super. Many, many thanks, Eva. Julia, the same question to you. I mean, they at least going offshore would need sea legs, I would suggest. But what other training and workforce development do you think is needed?
Well, first, I have to point out that offshore aquaculture is an activity that lives in an hostile environment, where accessibility of farms and its operativity is not guaranteed all year round due to the adverse weather condition. A major challenge for offshore farms is to increase the number of days, the active number of days per year as much as possible. In this way, increasing productivity. You can understand that if one farm cannot be approached and there aren't automatic feeding system, some days of feeding are lost, so decreasing the final weight of fish, for example. So we expect that the sector evolves by one side towards a more intense automation. So in the sense of feeding automation, in the sense of water quality detection, so chain of sensors, the use of artificial intelligence where opportune. And we also expect that the equipment improves its seaworthiness. So means platform, bigger cages, bigger ships. On the other side, the perspective of the sector is towards an increase of use of battery-driven system, battery-driven ships, operational ships. Remember that most part of aquaculture activities are commuting day by day. So from the stakeholder debate emerged that the most favorable option would be the batteries. But this kind of system imply the need of staff specifically trained for that operational characteristic at sea and on the specific safety when working with high voltage electricity in a wet atmosphere. In a few words, we need to prepare the future cohorts of high-tech farmers matching marine capabilities with the skills on new devices.
Yep. Thanks very much, Gio. Felix, are there plans to have strategic guidelines for training and workforce development? Or now I surprise you, but yeah, I'm sure you've been thinking about this as well as part of the general assessment of the development of aquaculture. Yeah.
Yes, but to be frank, no, there are no plans for such guidelines at the moment. As Eva was saying, the training needs to be very specific on the local needs, and I believe that there's a lot of difference in how you handle things, depending whether it's a RAS system, whether it's a pond aquaculture system, whether it takes place in raceways or what have you. So the technologies will be different, the needs will be different if we speak about inland, but even further so if we speak about offshore aquaculture. Maybe just to share a slight bit of optimism in terms of technology and electrification, because you were mentioning that. I saw two interesting articles this week. One was that China launched a 10,000-ton container ship run only by electricity with batteries, which is amazing. Okay, we are not in China, but this will come sooner or later. And the other was an article about electric ferries that can transport up to 30 people, but be reliant on only a battery that has the same size as an electric car battery. So also requiring the same charging infrastructure as an electric car battery. If you can transport 30 people in, for example, urban environments, then you can also have an offshore supply vessel which doesn't need to go too far away with that sort of capacity. And that is, I think, something where we can see in the daily development that the technology is moving very fast.
Yeah. Thanks very much for that. Perhaps I could have up on the screen the slider questions, because one of the questions which I think you can immediately answer, Felix, and a bit of publicity is, where can you find these strategic guidelines? So someone in the audience apparently was not able to find them. The question is not there now, but I did glance it.
You go to aquaculture.ec.europa.eu and you will find them there.
Voilà. Thanks very much. So maybe, so we do have some questions, and you see them.
Sorry. And then you click on key documents. That's where you find them, actually.
Don't forget the key documents. That's crucial. And so you'll see the whole suite of strategic guidelines available to you. And I think they're extremely useful in sharing best practices. And this is developed through the Aquaculture Advisory Mechanism, if I understand rightly. Yes, is that correct?
Well, they are helping us. The guidance documents are written by Commission staff, so they are Commission staff working documents, and but they are prepared with the help of the Aquaculture Assistance Mechanism, indeed.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. And also, going on the question, looking outside the EU, and in a way, by doing the energy transition, you might argue that can give us a competitive advantage. So there is a question here, is you mentioned the example of China, Felix, which is doing a huge amount, and I also saw an article about, I think it's called Half Farm, which is this huge ship, which is an aquaculture ship as well. So the question here is, how can EU aquaculture compete with the outside or aquaculture markets? And how will the energy transition help to support us, or even give us a slight advantage, or at least, as the question implies, give them an uneven level playing field? Eva, Julia, would either you like to take that question? Julia, please.
I will take. Well, it's not an easy answer. The EU aquaculture is on the global market. Not all the products are sold inside, but most of them, for example, salmon is an international commodity, so is sold everywhere in the world. There is a huge competition on this market for the price and, on some extent, on the quality. When the EU producer will be able to decrease their energy bill and to attract consumer, offering an higher sustainability of their production process, in this case, well, it's a competition advance. Otherwise, well, the other country, I didn't see in other countries so much commitment against the sustainability of aquaculture products. So the competition is honestly very hard.
Yeah, thanks very much. Eva, you wish to add to that?
Yes, thank you. Well, I think, yes, maybe on the short term, I mean, I absolutely agree with what Julia said, that in the short term, it's rather like having some competitive advantage by reducing energy costs. But I think on the long run, if we consider how this could be achieved, like there need to be a lot of cooperation among the different sectors. There need to be consumer awareness raised and all these community issues that we are facing. I think if we manage to resolve these issues, then on the long run, Europe will be successful, and it will have an advantage because it will be structured. And I think it's very important when any business is considered.
Yeah, thanks very much, Eva. I think we have time for one more question, if I may. And I guess this is more directed at you, Giulio, but Eva, feel free to also contribute. And that's the second question, is offshore aquaculture looking at becoming multi-purpose platforms. So aquaculture and MRE, I understand, is marine renewable energies for the not so familiar with the acronym. And how can these multi-purpose platforms overcome some of the transition costs?
The Commission has funded in the past and is still funding, if I'm not wrong, some project to develop the technology for multi-purpose platform, joining energy harvesting with aquaculture. The results have been scattered, I would say, because there is a fundamental flow in this, that energy harvesting is located in where a lot of energy exists, so winds, waves, and whatsoever. Aquaculture, till now, cannot avoid the human husbandry of fish. So the most valid solution found so far have to be looked in protective platform that can match the two systems together. So renewables and a protective environment for fish and for humans. Remember that fish are not able to withstand any energy. For example, during a tsunami, the fish is swept away on the beach because the waves are too long, too huge, and the energy is going over the threshold of their capacity of withstanding. So yeah, there is this possibility, but at the moment is limited by cost. One structure like this, one structure, an offshore structure that must be built following the rules for offshore structure, cost some dozen of millions of euro, and can be paid in a short, medium period only being able to raise a relevant of high quality products. So for the moment, this bill is matched only for salmon. Yep. For the other species, not yet.
Okay, thanks very much, Gio. Eva, did you wish to add to that? I know the question was for offshore directly, but Felix, maybe you want to share some thoughts on that as well? No, it's a topic we keep away from. I do and welcome the question in Spanish, but unfortunately my Spanish is not up to interpret it, but it is appreciated, and perhaps later some colleague can do the interpretation for me on that. But as always, time is ticking away for us. So I would have a closing question to Eva and then to Giulio. So my closing question is, again, looking forward, so how do you see the role of the ETP, the Energy Transition Partnership, evolving after the publication of the roadmap, which you saw from the speeches this morning is planned for September this year? And if you were to envision to see the aquaculture sector in 2050, you visit an aquaculture facility, what to you would it look like? So there's two questions in one there. So Eva, perhaps you can take it first.
Thank you. So the new roadmap could actually bring together ambition and implementation, I think. So it could provide kind of a frame for all of these activities, which means that there will be clear guidance and clear ways of cooperation. And but in the end, the focus will be on how workable this new roadmap is, and what kind of discussion it needs among like policies, technologies, and the market evolvance. when I think about the future way of inland aquaculture, I hope farmers will be more conscious and strategic about how they run their businesses, and there will be sharper understanding of costs and benefits, and also including the energy use. And they will be able to adapt to the fast-changing environment and production conditions. I also hope that there will be stronger cooperation among the different sectors, and that the resources are going to be used more efficiently. This will also extend to local communities and consumers as well.
Great, thank you very much, Eva. Giulio, so look to the future. So how would you see the ETP evolving, and how would you envisage the offshore aquaculture sector in 2050?
Well, about ETP, I think it has the merit to build a bridge between the fishery and aquaculture sector and the EU institution. I would suggest that the voice of stakeholder will continue to be present within the institution and within the energy transition process, as the voice of stakeholder is a fundamental part of a democratic transition process. Regarding the 2050 aquaculture, well, the scenario is, my scenario, is a bit different than the present. I see a different organization of the work with a lot of automation, and hopefully with the use of feeds at low environmental cost and low trophic species. From another side, I understand that EU producers are not alone on the market. On the horizon, other huge producers are coming, especially from Asia, offering alternative products on global markets. And this may lead to counteract the dominant role of salmon in EU aquaculture.
Yep. Thanks very much, Giulio. Felix, would you like to make some final remarks from your side? Yeah. No pressure. I mean, don't feel obliged.
No, I think the Commission has announced that it will come forward with their vision 2040, not yet 2050, but by the autumn. So I'm not going to anticipate that from my side. We are here to listen to the stakeholders. I would just like to say I remain optimistic for the sector. Because of technological developments, but also because of consumers being more and more conscious what it means and where their food comes from. We have been working on, what's it called, the sustainability footprint of food systems. It's a complicated matter, and I'm not sure how far the Commission has come in preparing that right now. But this is also there because consumers want to know where their products come from and how they are produced, and that's something I believe which will play an important role also in the future.
Indeed. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Eva, Giulia, and Felix, for sharing your insights here. I think you've achieved at least keeping us energized after the lunch break. So a big thank you again for your insights. And if I can ask you to leave the stage, and we will straight away, thank you very much, Felix. We will straight away move on to our next session, which I'm calling them the enablers, but that sounds like a sort of a rock band or something like that. Maybe they are. But this is the panel on the ETP recommendations from the NGOs, research and academia, shipbuilding, ports and infrastructure, and processing. And to kickstart this panel, I would like to invite our Deputy Director General, Kęstutis Adaukas, to come and give some context-setting remarks. So Kęstutis, please.
Good afternoon. Indeed, you're still awake. In fact, today is Fat Tuesday, Mardi Gras, so if you've had an extra meal out there, don't regret, because the redemption is coming in 7 weeks for some of us who believe in those things. But more seriously, here is a very, very important panel that's upcoming. And the reasons for that is that we know that energy transition is an action, is a process that cannot be seen in isolation from other sectors like infrastructure, research, innovation, academia, shipbuilding sector, processing, and other ancillary sectors. Because all of them, as we have progressed in our discussion since 3 years now, they play a crucial and vital part, and without at least one of them, we know that this transition simply won't happen. For example, the shipyards, really the ones that have a future for the fishing, at least, sector, but also, I would say, probably for aquaculture, because they're the ones that are to build the different types of vessels, those that will not only be energy efficient, but also will be attractive to the new generation. Equally important are ports, because they are pivotal hubs in this transition. That's where a lot of innovation is happening, a lot of activity is growing. We have heard already from Vigo, and we'll hear again from Vigo, which is one of the exemplary ports in many ways, not only for Europe, but for the rest of the world. But there are many others who are coming on board, and they will be playing a key, essential part in this transition. Innovation and research is really at the heart of this process and of this endeavor as well, because there we need new technologies, we need alternative fuels, we need innovative vessel designs, we need innovation all throughout. And that's why we believe in the role of research centers, of organizations for the cutting-edge solutions. And also, usually the success is seen where there is a collaboration between various sectors. Again, those that are most involved here, fishers, aquaculture producers, postal builders, civil society, processing, and all the others. That's what we need, the whole gamut of the players for unleashing the creativity here. And also we need the partnerships that will give us the insights, refine the approaches, and help develop the strategy, not least also the roadmap that we are building. And of course, this transition is part of trying to help us achieve the objectives of the common fisheries policy, because that policy needs to promote this extremely difficult equilibrium of the triple dimension of sustainability, economic, social, and environmental. And that's really that balance that is so difficult to achieve. And the energy transition is right in the middle of it. And if we get it right, lots of other things will probably play out rather well for common fisheries and aquaculture policy. And very important, for a policy to be successful, it has to be fair and just. And that's also what the energy transition will need to aim to do, because if we don't get it right, we know that simply there will be no economic, no social justice for the fishers and our aquaculture producers. So the social dimension of it is absolutely crucial here. And of course, the energy transition is not a standalone process as such. It is part of the bigger endeavors and initiatives that will come out in the weeks and the months. In fact, in just 2 weeks, during the Ocean Days, we'll have adoption of 2 essential strategies. One of them is port strategy, the other one is maritime industrial strategy. Absolutely essential for our transition here to succeed and to shed the light, because we're going to be part of a bigger process, and hopefully that process will accelerate the success in our sectors. So for that, I'd like to really thank those who have worked so far to give us the insights, and most specifically these are the ETP support group coordinators who will give us their insights, their ideas, but I really want to express our gratitude for what they have done, and to thank them in advance what they will do, say and do for the success of the roadmap, which, as Charlina Vichova said this morning, will form part of a bigger and more coherent picture for how we want our fisheries and aquaculture to develop in the future. So I'm looking forward to that discussion. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Kęstutis. That's a great scene setter for our next panel. And so what I'd like to do now is indeed invite the different colleagues who are involved in this. So I will start with Gorka Kabina. Gorka, if you'd like to join us, please, who was the support group coordinator for research organizations and academia from the ASTI Research Center. So Gorka, welcome. Yeah. And yes, leave me a seat at least, but I think there's for you, yes. Great. And next, I'd like to invite Vincent Guerre, who was the support group coordinator for the fishing shipbuilding industry and is the Director for Trade and Competitiveness at the Shipyards and Maritime Equipment Association of Europe, Sea Europe, which I think is more right. So, hey. And then for the support group coordinator for NGOs, I'd like to invite Alexandra Philippe to join us. And she's also a Fisheries and Maritime Affairs Advisor at the European Bureau for Conservation and Development, amongst many other hats I understand now. So welcome, Alessandra. Next, we will have Jan Posti. And Jan is the support group coordinator for the processing industry, as well as being public policy manager of Connexmar. So, welcome too. Okay, please. And last, but of course, by no means least, we have Gerardo Gonzalez, who was the support group coordinator for ports. And recall there was a question on Slido about ports. And he's head of the Department of Works and Blue Economy for the Port Authority of Vigo. So welcome, Gerardo, too. So we have a full panel, which is great. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a general question to all of them and ask each in turn to respond. And then I have a specific question for each of our panelists here. And it won't come out of the blue. They are prepared, I hope, or I expect. So we can get their different perspectives from all the work that they've been doing as well. And again, feel free to post in Slido, and if we will aim to have some time to also try and look at the Slido questions as well. So I'll start with the general question. And my general question is, how can your sector support fisheries and aquaculture operators in achieving their energy transition? And this time I'm going to start at the far end, so Gerardo, please.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Well, from the perspective of the port segment, we can help fishing and aquaculture because the activity that we are taking, that we are developing in ports to adapt all the operations and all the activities in the port is part of that transition to decarbonizing all the overall activities in the port, and they match the decarbonization of the fishing and aquaculture. But being more specific, we can help through developing and implementing the right energy solutions, like onshore power supply for fishing vessels and shared charging facilities, and also we can implement the the alternative fuels. So with these solutions in place, we are reducing individual investments, we are reducing the operational costs, and we are reducing also the fuel dependency. In line with this, what we have to do is to plan the infrastructures and the energy infrastructures jointly with the vessel operators, so we make sure that these investments translate into real improvements in terms of the quality of the air, the environmental impacts, and also the reduced noise at berth and reduced emissions at berth. We have also to coordinate actors, aligning port authorities, and vessel owners, funding, and energy providers, again, to make sure that we generate real impacts. And also, we have to, this task has to be inclusive, making sure that we include not only the large-scale operators, but also small-scale and artisanal fisheries. Next thing that we can do to help is become living labs, let's call it. So ports have to promote and host demonstration projects that de-risk the investment, the individual investment in new technologies, because we have to test these demonstration projects and validate the new technologies. And also, as public entities with a territorial role, we have to make sure that we make all these efforts to have beneficial impacts, not only on the fishing industry, but also on local communities and coastal communities, and on the environment surrounding the port. And now there's something really important here, is that there is a physical border, the barrier in the port, that separates what we can do for the vessel in the sea and what we can do inland. And as ports, we also can do many things, like improving the thermal enclosure of our buildings, reducing the energy consumption. We can improve the refrigerating equipments. We can change all the equipment inland to electric solutions, other carbonized solutions. And we have to also remember to do a part of the social integration and upskilling of the people working in the port, so they are ready to become part of that new technology that is coming for the fishing and aquaculture.
Yep. Great. Thanks very much. In fact, I think there was more than one important point there, which shows they're all important. And let's move on to Jan. So from the processing industry perspective, please, Jan. Same question. So how can your sector support fisheries and aquaculture operators for the energy transition?
Thank you, Stephen. So I would say that our sector, European seafood trading and processing sector, we are the link between the producers and the markets, and we play quite crucial role in making the energy transition workable, because let's say until now I feel like our sector has been often overlooked in the energy transition discussion. So I would like to highlight that it is very essential that we are fully included in the discussions and also the ETP, because without us, the measures at the primary sector or production level can't be efficiently implemented across the value chain. So how we can support the EU fisheries and aquaculture sector? First, I think we can provide stable and predictable commercial relationships, because we know that investments in energy efficient vessels, equipment and production system, it's not cheap. So at least our sector can provide certainty in markets and a long-term supply planning. And secondly, obviously we will improve value chain efficiency, because energy use doesn't stop at the vessel of fish farm. It continues to the transport, cold storage, you name it. So by optimizing the logistics and upgrading the facilities, we can cut the overall energy consumption and make the primary production also like effective through the entire value chain. And obviously we are involved in the practical dialogue with the entire ETP process and data sharing. And but I would like to maybe conclude this that we need to make sure, like it has been highlighted previously, that we must keep this transition economically viable, because the EU seafood sector operates on tight margins and faces a global competition. So we need to make sure that this is economically viable as well. Thanks.
Thank you very, very much, Jan, and again, extremely valid and relevant points to make. I now move on to Alexandra, who can give us the perspective from the NGO support group. So, Alexandra, please.
Yes. Thank you very much for your question, of course. And I want you to begin like you did. You called us the enablers, and I really, it was exactly what I wrote in my text, because yes, we prepared a question. And the enablers, I think it's really important, I think, for the perspective of NGOs, because here, I think, and I've seen the commitment of the NGOs that were in our working group that I thank today, that the energy transition can be a real opportunity for these, the NGOs and the industries, because we are more than one industry here represented, to really work together, because there is a common objective. Of course, there is different vision, but we have something to do there. On a more, let's say, broad approach, I would say that the NGOs are going to make sure that this energy transition does not lead to inequalities. We were talking earlier about fundings, etc. It would be very important that all actors are really committed and supported in the energy transition. It would be also important to have ambitious emission reduction in fisheries and aquaculture, but at the same time, that is grounded and embedded in realities of the field. And I think that NGOs are really connected also to the field and can really support on that. On a more practical perspective, I would say that the NGOs can help with pilot projects. We talked about that a lot in the framework of NFAP with Madame Vicheva before. I think NGOs are well suited for that, and there are, I know, a lot of projects where NGOs are already involved. Working also closely with coastal communities. There are several NGOs that are present in different member states, in different regions, that have the link with the local communities and can be also an intermediary between a policymaker and this tough, difficult regulation, etc., that are difficult to read and can help that, but also intermediaries between policymakers, scientists, energy provider, ports, coastal communities, etc. Is that the end? But I'm getting there. Helping for the training, because I'm going to talk about this after, and I'm sure my colleagues too. Energy transition requires skills, and it's important that NGOs can be really an enablers in that. But also I would like to finish on a very important role, I think, for the NGOs, is the monitoring of public policy and funding. I think it's important to emphasize that, because the energy transition, we have said it will require a lot of public and private fundings, but public funding is the money of everyone here in the room, more or less, and it's important that there are people that ensure, along with the Commission and other policymakers, but also people that make sure that there are real outcomes, like to avoid greenwashing, if I can say the word, and to make sure that everything is really embedded within a coherent and broad policy framework that is co-decided as we do today.
Yep. Super. No, many thanks, Alessandra. Again, very useful insights to give the broad perspective. I mean, I think that's one of the big advantage of the partnership is that we really were all-encompassing. So all relevant stakeholders and sectors have been involved in the deliberations, including, and now I turn to you, Vincent, the shipyards and the maritime equipment. And I recall the presentation this morning from Eldemiro saying that they had difficulties finding the right equipment and so on. So from your deliberations with your support group, then how can your sector support fisheries and aquaculture operators?
Thank you, Stephen, and good afternoon, everyone. So first, let me also thank the member of my working group, because we had a lot of industry people contributing to very concrete insights. So naval architects, people from shipyards, technology developers, maritime equipment manufacturers. So they brought basically their engineering common sense. And when you ask me what shipyards are bringing into this, it's precisely that, engineering common sense. Because innovation, it's not just a fancy idea, a nice concept, it's implementing it. And when the ship is at the shipyard, it's basically what we do. The owner has made a decision, could be for a new ship, a retrofit, a quick win like a new coating, a new wind assistance, a new propeller. And probably there has been a long way before that decision, and we discussed that already for long. But the shipyard, it's a very peculiar industry. To understand how it works, you have to understand it's a complex supply chain. So it's not only the yard itself that is an integrator, but it's also all the suppliers, engines, navigation systems, electric systems, etc. For this, you need capability. Capability, it's the know-how. Are we capable of assembling vessels that run on new fuels, on batteries, or whatever? In Europe, we are capable of building all types of ships. So we are capable of building cruise ships, which is the most complex ships ever, so we can definitely deliver solutions for everything. But then you have the issue of capacity, which is more the physical nature of the sector. So do we have available slots in the dry docks? Do we have sufficient workforce? How can we find the supplier? So you mentioned it, and the person who presented the project this morning also raised it. We are an industry that has its own competitiveness challenges. We have very fierce competitors in Asia. They have taken many of our markets in the last 2 decades, so we had to retrench in certain profitable markets. This means that if we would want to expand in other markets, we need strong signals on the demand side, because the investment required on expanding a yard, for example, is huge. And we are typically an industry that has the problems of all heavy industries. Long production timelines, small profit margin, a big investment, banks that do not really like you. And so there is also an effort to do on the supply side, but a lot on the demand. So we probably in the ETP need to better synchronize both.
Yep. Thanks very much, Vincent. Always good to get the perspective of shipyard. And as Kestutis mentioned, there's now going to be a new industrial maritime maritime strategy, as well as a port strategy. And actually, in fact, we did plan to have a speaker from DG Move join us to open this panel as well. But unfortunately, because of the priorities with this new initiative, they were also called away as well. So couldn't contribute to this debate, but I'm sure they'll be extremely interested in what we say and what comes out of this as well. So Gorka, now turning to you. So from a research and academia perspective, being a past researcher myself, I think this is extremely important, of course, but perhaps you can give your perspective on how research and academia can support fisheries and aquaculture operators for the energy transition, please.
Thank you, Stephen. And well, first of all, as Vincent said, thank you to all of our working group participants and maybe all the working group participants that without them it will not be possible, and with their invaluable insights and inputs. Well, as mentioned during this conference, there is no one solution that fits all due to the diversity of aquaculture sector and as well as fishing sector. So we need to develop tailored and feasible solutions that works, that build trust to the operators, of course. So for us, it is essential that we need data and share data amongst different research institutes and amongst different entities, of course. But we need to share our knowledge. It is for us critical to develop solutions to have the real data and to know and to understand how the plants, the aquaculture producing plants, fishing vessels, different fishing fleets, fishing gears, that how they operate, their energy demands, operational patterns in order to give feasible solutions and to generate trust on them. So for that we need innovative solutions, but innovative solutions now by means of pilot projects with demonstrations, platforms, living labs, such as, for example, the Hydrofish projects, and other projects that they are now here that we know them, well, Infinifish, Seaglow, and other platforms, and other electrification of a vessel here, that we need that structures in order to also to upskill as well, to build capacities, competencies, and to generate this transition and to make possible this transition. So, well, I think that a strong funding scheme on that line, it will be necessary. And of course, we are here also to create discussion forums as well to the policies, as you know, the capacity sailing, of course, but also the emissions regulation, emission rules that only are that are not applicable to the fishing sector, for example, just for shipping and big ships. So I think that we have lots of topics to work, and we are working on that. And for sure, one of the key is the people. The people that we need to train the people, improve the workforce, competencies, upskilling in order to gain the adoption of such technologies. So, we have a lot of, from the academia point of view. So, we have lots of work to do. You know.
Great. It's good to hear there's lots of work to do. In fact, research is one of those wonderful activities where you can always do more research, I would say. So thanks a lot for that, Gorka. So now I'm going to turn to the specific questions. And so I will again mix it up a little bit. So if you don't mind, I'd like to start with you, Alexandra, and to ask you, what does the sector and policymakers have to keep in mind to ensure a fair energy transition in the sector?
Let me begin by, maybe it's a bit obvious, and I think we heard it several times during the conference, but I think it's still important to say, and it's in the recommendation of the NGO segment. We need to make sure that this initiative, this roadmap, this energy transition is really embedded in a more broader approach. We need to have a holistic approach of the energy transition of fisheries and aquaculture. I think it's the presidency of Cyprus who said that earlier in the video message. This is not about only replacing an engine or switching fuel, which is already super difficult, I think. So, but it's not only that. It's also a time that we have to reflect on the fisheries and aquaculture we want for the future generation, for the health of our ocean and marine ecosystems, for sustainable food system, and also for the sector itself. For the sectors themselves, and as I said, the next generation. In that sense, it's interesting that it will be released at the same time as the Vision 2040 for fisheries and aquaculture, because it makes a lot of sense to go there. And also, in this holistic framework, we need to make sure that we have this transition, that this transition is fair and just, and fully integrated into the 3 pillars of sustainability, social, economic, and environmental. And I'm here also with the processing sector, so it's interesting to have really this all integrated cross-value chain approach. I think if we just focus on the production and we have just, which is already difficult, vessel that I don't know, have a different type of engine with a reduced carbon footprint, but that we don't do all the work in the entire value chain, it will be at the end of the day less beneficial. On another topic as well, it would be important to start with a baseline. With really a robust scientific comprehensive baseline for fisheries and aquaculture to understand where we are now and where we are going to be. Taking into consideration as well all the efforts, etc., that have been done by both the sectors before, because we are not just starting now because there is a roadmap. I think a lot of things have been done before. For us, it's important that it takes into consideration not only direct emission, but also indirect emissions, impact on biodiversity and carbon sinks, and as I said, to take into consideration the entire value chain. I continue a little bit with two things. What do you think? Financing is very important, and we have an ex-MFF. We need to make sure that these fundings are accessible for everyone. And small operators need to have special attention in that regard. And then let me finish with just the skills and the people, because you don't have an energy transition without people. It's very important to make sure that you have access to a skilled workforce. Therefore, you need to have trainings. Lifelong learnings, and also to make sure that to build awareness around why we are doing that, to take ownership of that. So biodiversity loss, climate change, the role of fisheries and aquaculture in the green transition should really be something that is taken to the sectors.
Yep, great. Thanks very much. And this sort of new skills aspect, you could picture also as a way for attracting younger people to the sector as well, to learn new things and new challenges as well, I would say, in this respect. Jan, if I might turn to you now, so let's look at the perspective from the processing sector. So how is the processing sector adapting its operations to support the energy transition? And what do you see are the opportunities and challenges in integrating more sustainable energy practices?
Thanks, Stephen. I would say that the EU seafood processing and trading sector is already adapting to support the energy transition, because many companies are already investing in energy efficient equipment, upgrading their systems and insulation, and digitalizing the production to reduce the consumption. So, and also obviously many companies are investing in solar panels and other green electricity adaptations. So, and also I want to mention the waste reduction and circular economy, because many companies are producing byproducts, cutting food waste and improving their packaging sustainability. So these measures not only lower the emissions, but also they are cutting the costs. So I would say that there are clear opportunities in the energy transition. We can drive innovation in the processing industries and improve our efficiency, and but also we need to have the access to the green financing and transition funding, because there are challenges at the same time, because we have very high upfront costs implementing these new technologies, and as I mentioned in my previous comment, that the margins are very tight in the sector, and the energy prices are very volatile. So, and also it's very important to highlight that it's a little bit similar as in the fisheries and aquaculture sector, that the sector is very diverse. So we have very different needs in the Baltic Sea, different sea basins from Baltic Sea to the Mediterranean. So if we look at the let's say, energy energy availability and these kind of things. So it's very diverse. So the coastal areas might have large production hubs, while if we go to the inland areas, the accessibility to the renewable energies is very, very low. So I think we need to remember that the sector is very diverse. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jan. And now let's, if I can now turn to Vincent. So my question to you, Vincent, is I think you kind of already alluded to this answer already, but maybe you can expand a bit more. Is the EU fisheries shipyard industry capacity technologically prepared, and does it have sufficient resources to support the energy transition?
Well, that's indeed a very key question. I mentioned capability, so definitely the technology, we master it, we are capable of delivering it. Then the question of capacity is very different, and it's usually largely driven by demand from the owners. Usually, the owners will put orders if they forecast prospects for profit. And it's a question we have to ask ourselves here on the energy transition of fisheries. Are the fishing sector making such forecasts? They need to think in terms of CapEx. Can they afford the investment? And OpEx, will they make profits with a new ship or a retrofitted ship? You know, they may think of all kinds of alternative fuels, but given the extra cost of those fuels when they exist, it's difficult to anticipate some prospect. So for the shipbuilding industry, we could deliver whatever the owner wants, but if the owner is not placing orders, nothing will happen. And for sure, we have to invest in reducing our costs, being more effective, making more slots available. But the yards will not do that investment if demand is not coming. And I think, we have in Europe all kinds of self-inflicted wounds, many of them coming from regulation. We talked a lot about financing. It's quite of a paradox that we have a fisheries fund, well, we still have a fisheries fund, that basically funds nothing for the fleet. No new vessels, very limited retrofit. And I think it's not so much the problem of the fund itself, which is quite limited, but all the rules of that fund are replicated to national funding. So it means member states cannot support retrofit, cannot support new building. And well, it's very good that this morning the Director General of the GMRA hinted at some work in progress on revisiting that fund, and we are eager to support that. I think it's come at a very timely moment, but it needs, to get things right. I think, of course, we do not want subsidies everywhere. We are not in China. But we could easily design a system of guaranteed by EU funding, like it exists for many other segments, like InvestEU, like the EIB are doing, putting, I don't know, a 15, 20% guarantee when the fishers go to the bank to secure a project, and combined and topped up with national funding. This is possible, and this is where we could have a strong impact on things that could be delivered now. And then another self-inflicted wound is, of course, these limitations on the volume of vessels. It's basically the way that the EU has prevented overcapacity for years on capping the fleet, and the volume of the fleet. I think we have to rethink that seriously, because we are just making it impossible to install anything that takes more space than fossil fuel here.
Okay.
So I hope, we have omnibus regulations for simplification everywhere, on automotive, on agriculture, anywhere. So why not a fisheries omnibus this year?
Okay, thank you very much for sharing those thoughts. And I see it's resonated a lot with the colleagues in the audience as well. It's all very good. Also, perhaps I forgot to mention, but when we've gone through this round, if any of the other colleagues wish to react to the comments made by their fellow panelists, then please indicate that to me. But I'm going to now move on to next to Gorka. I haven't forgotten you, Gerardo. But Gorka, so that my question to you is, how can the research and academia sector leverage existing findings, pilots, and innovations for the energy transition? And more importantly, perhaps, what more could be done in the coming years for this?
Good question. Well, as we saw in the first part of this panel, of this conference, well, there are running projects, for example, such as Hy2Fish project and other projects that I think that it is time for synergies. It is time for to learn the lessons that we'll learn during the project, and also to share the barriers that we are finding during the process. There are lots of barriers. One is the space, of course, the technology, even the availability of engines for small-scale fisheries in different branches, and so on. So, well, we need to share all this knowledge, and now we have the opportunity to do that, because, well, there are so many projects running now and ongoing projects that there is a very good, like yesterday with Cinea, that, well, we need to create different discussion forums in order to share this knowledge. Of course, we need to get involved the sector as well, and also find their needs, and because we need to cover their needs. And in the coming years, that, well, now also we are in the new era. As you know, the digitalization as well, and artificial intelligence, the new decision support systems, and so on, that we can develop, and we are now developing as well, in order to facilitate the fishing operatives to be more efficient, but avoiding over-exploitation of the seas, of course. And what this is a new scenario that now we have in front of us, that the digitalizations and big data analysis and so on, that we need to take into advantage and go ahead with this and find solutions and digital solutions for the fishing and aquaculture sector.
Yep, thanks very much, Gorka. Indeed, I think there is a lot to learn from other projects in the maritime sector, which are transferable, I think, to fisheries and aquaculture, and maybe we could focus a bit more on that. I think that leads nicely into my next question to you, Gerardo, which is, how is the transition of our sector, meaning fisheries and aquaculture, integrated into the broader transition happening within ports, and what are the key enablers specifically to support the fishing sector, apart from what the colleague sitting next to you, of course?
Well, my answer to this question is going to be much in line with my first answer, because, well, the broader transition happening in ports, how is that affecting the fisheries sector? Well, because whatever we are doing in the port to adapt the port to the new technologies, so to the decarbonized operations, is affecting, obviously, fisheries and aquaculture, and that is something that we need to bear in mind. What is important and is key for ports is knowing the demands or the needs of that fishing fleet, to consider them in our plans, in our development plans, our infrastructure plans, because all the investments in infrastructures are capital intensive. So knowing those demands from the beginning, those needs from the beginning, will reduce the need for rework or redo or rebuild certain infrastructures to adapt them for the fisheries and aquaculture. But being more specific, what are the key enablers? And I'll keep the first one on my roof, on the roof of ports, I'll say, and that is providing the adequate energy infrastructures, that be onshore power supply for fishing vessels, shared charging facilities, or alternative fuels, because that will allow for reduced fuel dependency, reduced operational costs, and also will allow the vessel owners to decide to invest in certain technologies that they will have available at the port. So that plan and knowing those needs from the beginning is one of the key enablers. The second one, obviously, is funding. And funding in two ways of understanding it. One, for the port, but we have more ways of financing ourselves. There are more ways of getting money for the infrastructures that we need. And also funding in the different and diverse shapes that they have, even being it regional, national, or European. Making sure that that funding arrives to the ones that need it, not only the large-scale operators, but also small-scale and artisanal fisheries, and we can help navigate that complex world of public funding calls to the small-scale operators mainly. And the last one, as I said in my first question, is becoming living labs, because becoming living labs is the way that we have of testing and validating new technologies and the risk in the individual investments that the vessel owners are going to have to make in their own vessels. So once we have technologies like OPS for fishing vessels or hybrid vessels as the high-to-fish that we're going to test in the port of Vigo, once we have tested those technologies and validated them, we are de-risking then the individual investments.
Yep. Thanks very much, Gerardo. Do any of the colleagues want to react to what other panelists have said? Don't be shy. Maybe while you're thinking, I think there is this sort of question hanging still to you, Gerardo, about what has been your conversation with ports. Then I'll come to you, Gorka. Yeah.
Well, we have been participating in the ETPA from the beginning. There's this segment for ports is one of the initial ones, and we have been participating in all the conversations. And obviously, in our working group, we have tried to analyze and understand the different needs of big ports, small ports, specifically fishing ports or more diverse ports. So we have been trying to generate a compendium of recommendations that covers the whole spectrum of ports. But obviously, this is a complex task, and it will have a refinement during the implementation phase of the ETP.
Yeah. Thanks very much. And in fact, this is also extremely important. We mentioned this morning, I think, that we are developing a new initiative on coastal communities. I mean, the fishing, for example, is the lifeblood of many coastal communities. So the initiative will be to develop resilient coastal communities. How can we support them? But also, and as a separate initiative, but at the same time on islands as well, in the same vein. And we're working with colleagues in our DG Regio on that aspect as well. But I think, Gorka, you wanted to take the floor, yeah?
Just very few, comment about the ports that, it is so important, for example, for our research and academia working group that the port is as a facilitator of the energy, new energy fuels, new fuels, or even electricity that, we have some, examples of research developments in ports that it is essential for example, for the fishing and aquaculture offshore vessels to have the facilities ready for the energy transition.
Okay. I think that one of the questions here, which in a way is a challenge to each of you. So for each of you, what priorities would you recommend for the other segment? If you can understand the question, please choose one and propose it. So on the ports, what would you suggest to NGOs, for example? Or on shipbuilding, what would you propose for research and academia? Do you have any ideas or suggestions in that respect? Gerardo, please, go ahead.
It's going to be a simple one, but it's very effective. And it's pick up the phone and call us, because we're willing to participate and we're willing to be facilitators of new solutions, new projects, new ideas.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Talk is good, to put it very simply.
I can take the next
Jan
one.
and then Vincent, yeah, please.
So I have one recommendation for ports, because don't forget the fish processing and trading and logistics. Do not focus only the fishing vessels And that's my recommendation. Thanks.
Very good. Vincent, and then we'll go to Alessandro. Vincent, please.
Yeah, for me, it's directing to our friends from the fishing sector. I think, don't work in silo. No, you have to come to the bigger table of the maritime sector. There will be soon an industrial maritime strategy, which will identify the lead markets for the European industry. Be part of that, be there, because it's where that we can together build good business cases. And it's a tendency of fisheries to have sometimes this silo mentality. So let's break it and let's dream bigger.
Alessandro, please.
Maybe it's a more general comment for, slash a priority for everyone. Let's also look at what we achieve, for instance, with the CFP, whether we like it or not. I think we all agree that a lot of progress have been made, whether it is by the sector or by regulation itself, etc., or a common of everything. And let's see what we can achieve now at this hour without going into too many details. But let's see, and let's not try to backtrack and not backpack at all.
That's something else.
With your backpack. No, backtrack and let's make sure that we don't we don't take one step forward and then 10 steps back in the energy transition. I don't want to react too much on the comment of Vincent on the MFAF or whatever has been said on capacity, but let's take time to be careful and to think about what we are asking and to have this discussion together. And I'm preempting a bit the rest of the panel, but the Energy Transition Partnership can be a good opportunity to discuss that in a more like Zen attitude.
Zen is good over the telephone or in person as well is also good. Before I hand over to you, Vincent, there is a question which hasn't really come up yet. And now it's disappeared. But it was, how have you considered what we see as the increasing impacts of climate change in your deliberations? Did this come up in your conversations with your different support groups? Gorka, thank you.
Not so specific, but I am aware that there are research projects, ongoing research projects, for example, Infinifish projects that they are here, the project leaders, that they are working on the climate the fisheries to be more resilient to the climate change as well, and of course by digital tools, by decision support tools, with migratory species and so on. So I am aware that from the research part that we are working on that.
Yeah. Thanks very much. Vincent, I think you wanted to react to the comments made by Alessandro and
yes,
Jan and so on.
Yeah? Well, in fact, I gently disagree with Alexandra. When in fact we should rush. I think we've spent a year collecting insights in our working groups. They are public. There are pages and pages of clear recommendations. I think we have the evidence base now for the Commission to make informed decisions. So I think we should just act.
That's very definitive. Thank you very much. That's a good way forward. Okay, I think I don't see. What I would suggest now, again, time is ticking. I'm sorry for that, but perhaps I can do another round robin with you on a closing question. So again, I will go one by one, and again, this is, as you notice, we're asking every panel this. So, how do you see the role of the Energy Transition Partnership evolving following the publication of the roadmap, and what would you like to see in years to come? And imagine you are in 2050 and you're looking out at sea and you're seeing these wonderful energy transitioned fishing vessels, for example. But what would be your ideas that you would like to see in that respect? And perhaps I can start with you this time, Vincent, on that, please.
Well, I think we had a very nice day, nice venue, nice catering, fantastic moderator. But I think next year, I do not want to see ourselves in the same setting. I think, let me propose something, that we meet in a shipyard for the launch of a demonstrator supported by the EU, and we have an update by the Commission on where they are with the fisheries omnibus, which hopefully they would have launched before that. This would be, to me, a success story.
Okay. I don't know if you brought your fan club with you or you convinced many people, but thank you for that indeed. Gorka, may I ask you the same question, please?
Well, yeah, I think that we must shift from the concept now to the practical actions, and well, I think that we should involve more deeply the fishing and aquaculture sectors. I think that maybe it is a gap from our research and academia working group, and well, I think that. As I told you before, that it is time for synergies, it is time to creating discussion forums, discussion groups, and gathering all the knowledge that now we have across all the sectors, and build the roadmap and go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. No, indeed, I think we have a firm, solid basis, and I have some sympathy with what you say, Vincent. Now we should, in a way, walk the talk, if you like, to move forward with things. And I think there is certainly willingness to do that amongst many of our stakeholders for this. Gerardo, may I ask the same question to you? So, sort of your future views on this.
Yeah, well, we all agree that we needed that roadmap as a reference document we need that roadmap as a reference document to refer to, and that now we need to go from words to action. That is a common understanding that we have. And as part of those tasks during the implementation phase, we have to make sure that we are identifying possible bottlenecks that we didn't see during the preparation of the roadmap, and that we are aligning or balancing technological maturity with regulatory and funding frameworks. But we also can use the ETP in the future as a ways of integrating the territory in this implementation of the roadmap to make sure that we benefit all the stakeholders involved. And anyway, as a conclusion, what we're saying usually is that let's go from words to action as soon as possible. Let's take action now that we know, at least we know the theory of what we want to do. We all agreed in the next steps, and let's do it as soon as possible.
Yeah. Here. Thanks very much. Jan.
Yes, so, well, the roadmap is now under development and hopefully published very soon. So I'm happy that it has been done in a close collaboration with all of us and all the sectors. And I really hope that now the roadmap will provide clear guidance for the entire sector, from the fisheries and aquaculture to ports and shipbuilding to seafood processing and trading, that we have good guidance. And for our sector, I really hope that the roadmap provides clear guidance where to prioritize the investment in the context of the energy transition. And obviously, I also hope that once the roadmap will be published, our sector will have a little bit a stronger voice in the ETP's process and in shaping how the measures will be implemented. And I'm happy that we have now established this multi-stakeholder ETP partnership, and I hope that the collaboration will continue. And finally, I really hope that the ETP can, in the future, unlock a little bit the funding opportunities, because the energy transition won't be cheap. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very, very much indeed. And I'll give the final word to Alessandra, please.
Gladly. Yes, for me, of course, concrete actions are needed, and the roadmap will be essential. But I think we can still talk a little bit and discuss on several things. Personally, I can do two things at the same time, so sorry, Vincent. But yes, this structure has really helped. I don't have the same fan club as Vincent.
No, clearly not.
To be honest, this past year with the Energy Transition Partnership, it has been really ups and downs because we are a completely different, new kind of stakeholder engagement structure. I think, yes, there is the advisory council that I thank, of course, the really good work they do, but it's more on fisheries management side. Here, it was more with different type of stakeholders, different industry, the research, processing, the ports, etc. It was kind of new, so we had to a bit like invent ourselves, but I think it's worth continuing in that direction. I'm sure that when implementing the roadmap, we are going to have like some ideas or some things that we want to be careful with and that we can discuss all together. One of the recommendations of the working group on NGO is also to make sure that in this configuration we are not redoing the sector by sector approach, but that we work really, we break the silo, everybody loves saying that, we break the silo, we work together. It's true that the coordinator, we are working together. There are some coordinators who took the initiative to invite other working group in their working group, but let's try to invent a little bit further in that direction.
Fantastic. Many, many thanks. Many, many thanks to all of you for your extremely interesting and useful insights for this panel. I hope the audience also garnered a little bit of the type of discussions that went on and the suggestions that went forward. So please join me in thanking very much our panelists. Thanks very much, Vincent. Merci. Thank you very much, Jan. Before you go for, thank you very much, Gerardo. Thank you very much, Gorka. Before you go for a mid-afternoon coffee break, what we'd like to do is to try and have a family photo. So could I ask all of you to sort of come and stand in front of the stage? And the sooner you do that, the sooner you can get a coffee. So I saw a little bit of an incentive for you there to do that also.